What up, Wizards? It's Dev, and today we are entering the final section of Aetherdrift Previews and spoilers, and whatever you want to call them. It doesn't really bother me either way. Now, tomorrow we finish this whole race up, man. I hope the last course is Rainbow Road, but we're going to hit Twitch tomorrow around 8:30 p.m. EST on Thursday and rate every single card in this set in a speedrun, and I am determined to get my best time ever. That said, we still got the back straightaway to worry about on lap 499, baby. So let's talk about these 14 cards that we got to see today. Some commons, some uncommons, but when it came to the rares today, I didn't really see too much I didn't like, but we got to get there first, so let's start our engines, I guess. Have I not actually used that pun myself yet this week? I don't think I have. So let's get to the cards. That's the problem with all these like tropey sets. You know, I don't have as much of an issue with them as everybody else does, but as a content creator, I'm supposed to be like the pun guy, and they're taking all the puns, and they're just leaving me scraps. I'm over here spinning my tires. I don't know what to do. But let's, like I said, let's look at the comments. Let's look at Stampeding Scurry Foot first, as well as Maximum Overdrive. One of these is a car pun. Well, the other one isn't really. Let's look at that one first. It's Stampeding Scurryfoot, a cute little guy. A single green mana for a 1/1 mouse. What are you doing in green? You're supposed to be red or white. Anyway, you exhaust this guy for 3 in a green, and you put a +1/+1 counter on him, and you create a 3/3 green elephant creature token. So I like this as a 1-drop in limited, along with Elvish Refueler, a card that I have brought up like 4 times, so I'm pretty sure it might be important in limited. Just any exhaust ability you want to use over and over, Refueler's pretty good, and in this case, having a makeshift creature factory that gives you a 3/3 every turn, and the mouse gets larger every time you activate the ability too, might actually be a nice little combination. I don't mind 1-drops that do something later. I think they're halfway decent and limited, but for the most part, I'm not like too impressed by this guy, other than the fact that, I'll reiterate this, he is an adorable little man. Like, if you look closely in the art here, I'm pretty sure he's got like a little Gruul branded mohawk thing. It's good job. But we'll move on to Maximum Overdrive. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains both Death Touch and Indestructible until end of turn. It's kind of hard, you know, and it's a bit savage to be honest. This is a pretty decent little combat trick. It's mostly going to do things in limited, I guess, you know, like black gets a combat trick that's kind of like this in every set, but usually it's like either Death Touch or Indestructible. But like in this case, your mouse, your 1/1 mouse over here can basically block up anything in the entire world and kill it and stay alive, which is actually pretty impressive, really. I kind of like this a lot. But we'll move on to Crash and Burn here. I'm going to put this on screen by itself because the last comment of the day is actually like playable, and I'm not sure that this one is. This is 4 mana, 3 and a red for an instant. Choose 1, destroy target vehicle, or Crash and Burn deals 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Now, I won't say this is completely unplayable, at least in limited. You know, it's a removal spell, and it blows up any vehicle that you want. And I think that's going to be something you might want to play like one of in limited, but I probably wouldn't go too crazy with these. You know, it kills basically anything in the entire set, save for a couple of creatures. But 4 mana, even at instant speed, is kind of a lot, so I think it's like maximum 2 of. But the best common of the day, and like in some ways one of the best cards of the day, because like it's instantly playable, is Bounce Off here. A single blue mana for an instant, return target creature or vehicle to its owner's hand. You see that? And they actually worked the word bounce into the title. I see what you're doing. Good job. This is just unsummon but better. It's just unsummon with, you know, buttercream icing. So why would you not play this? Honestly, I kind of hate that we just invalidated Unsummon. I was kind of excited to have that card in Standard again, because, like, I could play it when I was 11 years old. You know what I mean? It always feels kind of good to play an Unsummon in Standard, but you'll just play this instead. It's literally strictly better. Yes, I know I've said the thing, but there is just no reason to play Unsummon now when you could be playing this. And Unsummon is a card that has seen some play in Standard. You know, depending on what you're doing, it can be quote-unquote better than Into the Flood Maw, because it can target your own guys. So I would not be surprised if this just took over the spot for Unsummon, which is a thing. You know, again, I enjoy playing Unsummon because I get to be, you know, 12 years old at my friend's kitchen table again for just a second. This is in a Mario Kart set, and it just came out. It's brand new, and it's not that it doesn't really hit the same, you know what I mean? But it's still obviously a very good card. But let's move on to the uncommons, and to be honest, like, a lot of these look pretty decent today, but yeah, I'm going to start with Wretched Doll here. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 3/1 toy. It's an artifact creature. You can pay a black and tap it to surveil 1. It's the entire card. There also appears to be some pretty disturbing lore as far as winter goes here. That's weird. But this is a card. This is a magic card. I don't know if you needed me to point that out to you. You probably understood that much at least. But yeah, it's just like there's not much to say about this guy. I hate to say that there's not much to say. So I think I'm just going to move on, if that's okay with you guys. Do you want an extended conversation about this guy? Probably not. So I'm going to move on to Rover Blades here. You see, they're not roller blades. We can have a blue shell reference in the set, a legally distinct blue shell from Mario Kart, but you better not call these rollerblades or you're going to get sued. This is 3 mana for a 2/2 equipment vehicle with double strike. It also equips for 4, and it crews for 2, do you see? And also, when you do equip it to a thing, the equipped creature has double strike. It's actually really neat, and I just made that sound way more complex than it actually is. Just it can be a vehicle that swings, or it can be an equipment. Dope. That's actually kind of cool. In some ways, I like it. I think it's like a fairly playable like baseline card in Limited, where a 3 mana 2/2 double strike is a fine deal. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, people don't really play. Well, there's a card in Standard right now. It's a 3 mana 2/2 double strike, and you can unearth it, and it works with Mishra. You know that guy? Not many people play that guy. So I don't know if it's good on stats alone in Standard, but it is really neat that you can equip it to a thing. That's super sick, actually. I like the idea, design space-wise, at least, of an equipment vehicle. And this, like, makes sense as an equipment and a vehicle, do you see? So I kind of like what they did here, but I'm not sure that it's at the level it needs to be standard playable or really anywhere beyond that. I've seen some people, like, buzz a little bit about this card in Commander already today. I mean, is it strictly better Fire Shrieker? Is it actually strictly? No, because it costs 4 to equip. So I don't know. I don't think that it's... I'm just not too sure. The whole thing seems odd. But overall, this is a really, really neat Magic card that I do think is pretty intimidating to just have sitting on the table when you're at your sealed pre-release. But next are a couple of uncommons that I think are fine, like Fuel the Flames and Broodheart Engine here. Now, Fuel the Flames is 3 mana. It's 2 and a red for an instant. You can also cycle this for 2, and it deals 2 damage to each creature. Okay, like it's instant speed too. Like, all right, like, we're getting a lot better here in terms of card quality. You know, not the best sweeper in the world, but the instant speed helps, and by God, the cycling does too. Yeah, I was just talking the other day about how good a cycling sweeper can be in practice, and in theory, for that matter. And like, I think this is great. You know, it takes out a bunch of different like pilots and stuff in Limited. Sure, it's a great sweep there, but I actually think this is like halfway sideboard playable in Standard. Sure, we have like Brotherhood's End and Slagstorm even now. You know, we have these like midway 3 mana red sweepers, and I think that this is not as good as some of the ones we have access to. But again, the instant speed and the cycling might change my tune real quick. This is actually a pretty versatile card. But I'm going to move on to Broodheart Engine here. This guy is kind of cool. He's like a Valgavoth's Faithful. That's basically it. You see, he's a green and a black for an artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. You can also pay 2, a black and a green, and tap it and sacrifice it to return target creature or vehicle from your graveyard to the battlefield at sorcery speed. So, unlike a Valgavoth's Faithful, this can't get hit by a cut down. As a matter of fact, there ain't that much in Standard right now that people are playing currently. They really blow this thing up like reliably, so... not actually the worst reanimation spell in the world. It is a reanimator spell that you're kind of paying 6 mana for. Your turn 2 is kind of important. You're going to use that to cast a Bitter Triumph or like some other thing that puts stuff into your yard or lets you discard. So, you know, this is kind of do nothing on turn 2, which is an important turn for Reanimator. That said, it kind of gives you at least the 2 surveils until turn 4 when you can pop it. So that's better value than a Valgavoth's Faithful. Problem is it costs twice as much as Valgavoth's Faithful, and it requires green mana. So I'm not sure which card is better, and Valgavoth's Faithful is a card that has seen like some Standard play. It shows up in Reanimator decks. It's kind of a tertiary, you know, like a second Reanimator spell sometimes. So I could see this intriguing some folks. You know, we'll see if it crosses the line or not, but I think it's slightly underpowered, all things considered, but I'm still kind of excited about it. You know, Reanimator decks want to surveil, and even past the first Reanimator spell that you cast, you're still going to want to surveil, so like multiple copies of this will be okay. But the best uncommon of the day, and I think there's a fair degree of separation, is Point the Way, a single green mana for an enchantment that some might call a trap, but we'll discuss. This is Start Your Engines, first of all. And It also has this activated ability. 3 and a green, sacrifice it. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, X being your speed. Put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Well, I think this is at least Commander playable, but I would not put this outside the realm of standard playability. Ceiling is insanely high on this thing, man. Like, it goes and gets 4 lands, which is nuts. It's pretty nuts for your 4 mana investment. The problem is that you have to get that speed somehow. And I'm not sure, like, where a ramp deck really picks up speed. You know, so I do have like some reservations about this card, and that's why some are referring to it as a trap, because, you know, you're not going to get 4 lands with it, like hardly ever, right? But I don't think that necessarily has to be true. There is opportunity cost to putting this in your deck in the first place. The slot could be used elsewise, but at the same time, you know, like this on turn 1 into Deep Cavern Bat on turn 2 or something, actually pretty good. Seems okay. You know, you're going to be picking up some speed that way with your flying Deep Cavern Bat. You probably got a removal spell out of their hand. This went ahead and started your speed at 1 on turn 1, which is like somewhat noteworthy. That's not bad. So altogether, I don't think it's hard to pick up at least a couple of speed, at which point this is like, you know, on the same level as an Invasion of Zendikar or an Explosive Vegetation or a card that we played before. But once it hits 3, you don't even have to be max speed. Once you hit 3 speed, this activated ability is more than worth it, I think, a lot of the time. Also worth noting that for a total of 5 mana on 1 turn, right, you can just rip this off the top of your library. If you're at max speed, go get 4 lands. That seems fantastic too. So there's a lot of good stuff about this. Again, I think it's somewhat Commander playable for sure, but even outside of the realm of that format, you know, that goofy Gus of a format, you know, I think that this might actually have like some competitive playability if you can increase your speed and if you want to ramp. You got to thread a needle to actually like be in the kind of deck that wants to play this card, but if you are, there's just not really a whole lot of better options for ramping. But we are at the rares and the mythics for that matter. We got 5 of these today, and like I said, top of the video, I can't really find much to not like about most of these higher rarity cards today. So let's look at Wax Shapestealer first. This is 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 0/0. We'll talk about that. Shapeshifter with Flash. You may have this enter as a copy of a creature or artifact that you control. You can also cycle this away for 2. Absolutely wild clone here, dude. I won't say it's like the best clone we've ever seen, but geez Louise, man. It's got Flash and it cycles, and like clones are dead sometimes. You know, you just don't have a creature, especially the way this is worded. It has to be a creature you control, which technically is a downside on a clone, but honestly, I'm just not seeing too much of a downside here. Like, Flash on a clone is always, like, pretty primo, but in this case, again, like, just cycling, I hate to repeat myself so often. We only have so much time in these videos, but just, come on, it's got cycling, too. This is one of those where I don't even have, like, tech or anything. I'm just like, you guys see this, right? You know, so I really have nothing but praise to heap onto it. But I wish I had more examples of why it's good. I just think it's one of those, if you've been playing Magic for a while, if you're a clone aficionado, you look at this and you're like, okay, that's going in. So, yeah, man, I actually think this is like a hair's breadth under standard playability for the most part, but I wouldn't be surprised if it showed up either, man. There's a lot of fun stuff like, this is like copies 5 through 8 potentially of an Enduring Curiosity in your deck. It seems great. And it's another way to draw cards outside of Enduring Curiosity. I don't know. Sign me up is all I'm saying, dude. There's plenty of fun stuff to copy. I'll go for it. Seriously, why does it have Flash? Why does it have that ability? But anyway, Webstrike Elite is our second rare of the day. This is just kind of generically powerful. It's 2 green mana for a 3/3 insect archer with reach. You can also cycle this for X and 2 green, and when you cycle it, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment with mana value X. Come on. Even saving some of the, again, just most generically, like obviously powerful cards for these last couple of days here. Is definitely on that list. I think this is probably better than Keen-Eyed Curator in a lot of situations, right? Again, it's got the reach, block anything, and it's blowing up, you know, Caretaker's Talents, it's blowing up Urabrass Forge, and sure, it costs like 5 mana to do that, but still, you know, a rate you'll pay, you know, some of the time at instant speed on a body. And don't forget, you get to draw the card too. It's not just blow that artifact or enchantment up. It's not just expensive disenchant. Drawing a card is a pretty good upside, obviously. So wild, man, wild. You know, a removal spell that says draw a card tends to be okay. tends to be more than okay. And most of the artifacts and enchantments in standard that you're looking to blow up really don't cost more than 3. So this thing's price will get high, but not like astronomical or anything. You'll be willing to pay it. So I don't know, man. I think that this is a pretty banger card here, and I don't have that much more to add because just like the flash clone that cycles, you know what I mean? You look at this and you're like, okay, they printed that. Wow. So, again, I wish I had tech for it. Just put it in your green deck. How's that? It seems like it goes in your green deck. Oh, you don't have one of those? Well, maybe you want to, get on that now that this guy's in standard. But let's move on to Gastal Thrill Roller, which is not, it just does not come off the tongue well. I've tried to say this card out loud multiple times already, and I just can't. Thrill Roller. It's 3 mana. 2 and a red for a 4/2 vehicle with both trample and haste. When this vehicle enters, it becomes an artifact creature till end of turn. It crews 2 and you can pay 2 and a red and discard a card to return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it at sorcery speed. He think he ball lightning. It's not quite ball lightning, obviously, but a 3 mana 4 power trample haste. It's like kind of okay, man. And it can come back. Ball lightning could never, you know what I mean? Well, unless you had like Unearth, then I guess it could, but or helping hand. Why is nobody helping handing ball lightning back into play in standard? Can we do that as a team? I think we can. But because ball lightning's in foundations, right? Yeah, it is. Anyway, this again, if ball lightning's not seeing play, what makes me think this will see play? Well, the fact that it's sweeper proof, right? It's sorcery speed removal proof. That's kind of important. The crew cost is like relatively low on subsequent turns. Obviously, a turn it comes in play, you don't even have to crew it. Just really decent card, man. I think that the, decks most likely to play this would normally be mono red, but in this day and age, I don't really think mono red needs this so bad. Not quite. They got Screaming Nemesis. And that's just about their only 3-drop. The rest of their deck's like 1 and 2s. So I'm not sure this goes in or anything, but just in a vacuum, the card does seem pretty powerful to me. A ball lightning that just incidentally comes back from your graveyard, nuts. And if you want to get really kooky here, and I always do, where you could be facing down the kind of like a self-mill deck that puts like 3 copies of this in its yard and then goes nuts late in the game after a sweeper. Like, it could happen. Wouldn't hold my breath, but I've seen stranger things. So let's move on. It's not as good of a show as most people say it is. Stranger Things, it's fun. I like the first season. Anyway, we're going to move on to Ovia, Auto Mech Artisan here. This is 4 mana, 3 and a green for a 1/2 legendary human artificer. Each creature that's attacking one of your opponents has trample. All right. You can also pay a green and tapper to put a creature or vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put an artifact onto the battlefield this way, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So Darksteel Colossus is in standard. It's kind of fun. We've had these Elvish Piper effects in standard like recently. I think there was one in, again, one of the latest Innistrad sets that just rotated out. And like, I don't think anybody ever touched that card, which is really sad because it was like a better Elvish Piper. So I don't think Ovia is going to see much play despite what you can actually do with her. Like Kona, we have Kona in standard right now. Not exactly the same card, but similar mana cost allows you to just drop things into play, and you can do it the turn Kona comes into play, and Kona still doesn't see any play. Deck is busted, but like nobody cares. So I'm just not sure that, that effect that you have to wait a turn on is going to be too good either, to be honest. But I don't know, maybe being able to hit vehicles is going to be good, and especially this first line of text right here. In 1v1s, this just translates to attacking creatures you control have trample, which is actually a pretty good line of text, all things considered. Especially when you're just dropping bombs onto the table, son. Also remember that we have, Agatha's Soul Cauldron in standard. I feel like with exhaust abilities, I've brought that card up a few times already in previous season, but remember it exists for this because, seems like something you'd want to be doing in Soul Cauldron deck, So altogether, I do like this card. I think it's kind of a neat commander too. To have this in your command zone seems fun. Everyone likes Elvish Piper and Commander, right? You know what I mean? It's a casual all-star, so I imagine an Elvish Piper you can play in your command zone will probably generate some buzz, but altogether, I'm not too much seeing this in standard. I don't think you want to play a 4-drop that dies to cut down and burst lightning. I just don't think you do. I'm sorry. Actually, we do have one more rare today. For some reason, I didn't write Skyseeker's Chariot down in my notebook. I don't know why I didn't do that, but Skyseeker's Chariot is a good time to review it because it probably is, in some ways, the most standard playable rare of the day, just right out of the box, except for maybe that green 3/3, but like again, who's playing green? So let's look at Chariot real quick. 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 3/3 vehicle with flying. As this vehicle enters, choose a non-land card name. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cost 2 more to activate. And this cruise for 2. So some of the discussion I've seen today mostly revolves around Anointed Peacekeeper and which card is better. First of all, you just play them in the same deck because you play them on curve. I think Peacekeeper is probably the all-around more powerful card just in terms of like scope. But, I think that, 2 mana versus 3 mana is a massive difference in terms of, tempo and standard right now. Note that, it can nerf mana dorks and stuff too. That's pretty gross. It can hit, obviously mana rocks. It can hit things like Maze Mind Tome. It can hit Agatha Soul Cauldron, I guess, make them pay more mana for that. That's cute. Or any activated abilities that the Soul Cauldron is passing around. In Commander, I guess you could always name Soul Ring, right? And then your opponents basically just don't have soul rings. That's kind of cute, but you get what I'm getting at here. It's nice it can hit mana abilities and, zooming back into standard. There's plenty of activated abilities that you might want to consider hitting with this. And note, too, that it hits, vehicles. It costs 2 to crew the vehicles. That's an activated ability. Same thing with saddling. Saddling is an activated ability, so it will cost 2 more to do that. So this could be a scourge in the limited environment, but actually, I think there's plenty of stuff to name in standard, outside of just planeswalkers. It gets like you can name Kaito with this, and now they can't activate their Kaito. That seems pretty sexy. Liliana of the Veil, same thing. So there's a few important planeswalkers in standard, but it hits way, way more than that in that format. Ghost Vacuum. I could keep going. There's plenty of stuff. Now, all season, I've been doing the Mythics last, even if they're not really the best card of the day. And sometimes we get interesting stuff like Radiant Lotus, right? And then other times we get Salvation Engine, which I do think some people will be into, though. This is 5 mana, 4 and a white for a 6/10 vehicle. It's a big guy. Other artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. It's that card. It also crews for freaking 6. But remember that if you're crewing it with an artifact creature, it's kind of crew 4. Anyway, whenever this vehicle attacks, return up to 1 target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, all right. So we're getting a little nasty here. Now, 5 mana is probably just like slightly too much for this, but it's a pretty good package. It can't be killed by first of all, any damaged base thing in standard or any minus your toughness base thing in standard, nowhere to run, right? It can't be hit by cut down, obviously. It can't be hit by go for the throat. So that's pretty good. If they want to lay down arms you have to somehow crew it on their turn, which you'll almost never do. But if they want to do it, and it is a creature on their turn, they have to have 5 planes out. It's easier said than done. It's just again, I've said this about a couple of cards this season. It's not removal proof, but it doesn't get hit by most playable removal spells. Enormous Affliction is another one. Just a wild card in that case. Also works pretty well with our, new Boros 2-drop that just gives vehicles haste the turn it comes into play, but the turn they come into play. Also works pretty well with the new Chandra, right? On curve, 4 mana Chandra, 5 mana this, bing bang. You can even use the Chandra to, get rid of an artifact or something and then reanimate it on the next turn with this. But obviously the stuff you really want to reanimate with this is Portal to Phyrexia or another nasty vehicle like the Flagship. Or maybe you want to get, was it Skyship? Did I mess the name of that card up? Anyway, you might want to get a Darksteel Colossus. I'll say that card's name again in this video. So that card has not gotten so much love in a long time, but I don't know. I kind of want to try it in standard, even though I'm pretty sure it's not there. And I usually say not quite there. I'm pretty sure this is actually a longer way off than I really want it to be, but I still want to try it. There's a lot of cards in this set that I want to try. Now, that is it for today, but like I said, there's one more day of official previews, and we will do those cards when we run through our speed run tomorrow, but I may put out a separate video if there's any really important cards I really want to get to or have a lot to say about that don't fit a speed run. I may put out a separate little video talking about the best cards from tomorrow. Aside from that, though, again, make sure you join us 8 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, soft launch time there. Tomorrow, Thursday, and we're going to be speedrunning every single card in the set. So I do it to myself every time, but again, this time I'm determined to break my record. Either way, last thing I'll say in this video before I do the outro is that I like this set. I've got a lot of projects and work and stuff coming up. A video that I'm desperately trying to squeeze in is in defense of Aetherdrift, because my comments section is full of people who just aren't vibing with this set at all. And that's your prerogative. That's totally fine, man. But I like this set so far from what I've seen, and that's all I'm really going to say at the moment. I'll have a much more impassioned and hopefully convincing defense of the set a little bit later, maybe a few days or a week from now. All I'm going to say is that I think that this set is already getting a bad rap. You can not like Mario Kart wacky races or whatever it is, the theme, that's totally fine. But there's some gold in here, I promise you. But that's all I got for this one, guys. I'll say more on the subject in a moment. But anyway, I have been Deb from The Place. Make sure you do all the stuff on your way out. Thumbs up the video. It's the one shaped like a thumb. They've made it pretty easy to find on there. Subscribe to the channel if you feel like it. It would mean a lot to me. I need more subscribers. I need them. Physically. Apart from that, I have a Patreon. It's $1 a month to throw into the bucket if you feel like it. It's all it really takes. You can vote on what decks we do in Aetherdrift Standard and be a part of YouTube history and basically the best squad on all of YouTube. And I know that every content creator says that, but I freaking mean it. Everyone here is so kind-hearted and nice. Not just the patrons, but like the stream family, the Strictly squad itself, just like, we have a good little thing going here. We always have for the last 10 years. So join up if you feel like it. It would mean a lot to me. But I just appreciate you being here at the end of the video. That means a lot too. But I will see you all tomorrow and then again and again and again with a bunch more content before it's all said and done for Aetherdrift preview season. But in any case, that's it for now. I suppose that is Allski Kowalski. I am Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.